Hello and welcome to Froch on Fighting with me, Carl the Cobra Froch, four-time world boxing champion, Hall of Famer. Right, listen, I'm sitting here in my study doing a bit of work and I wasn't going to do anything about Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, but it's on my mind, it's bugging me, it's not right. So I'm going to just give my response to it. This episode is brought to you by Cobra Casino. So I was scrolling through my phone, like you do, swiping away, having a look at some of the bits and bobs on my previous Froch on Fighting episode, my live stream, which went very well. Thanks for all the comments, by the way. But anyway, I'm minding my own business, and I stumbled across the news that Jake Paul is fighting the legend, the icon, Mike Tyson. What is going off? Listen, as soon as I heard that, I just thought, this cannot be happening. You can't be putting a guy in his mid-20s, in against a guy that's approaching 60 years old. And Mike Tyson's had some wear and tear in his career. He's smoking quite a bit of weed these days. I'm sure he's got a walking stick and he's got back problems. Now, when I first heard that this fight was happening, I was thinking, surely not. Surely this is like a bit of an exhibition or a bit of a gimmick, or they're having some kind of a steady move around. But Jake Paul is actually officially taking on Iron Mike Tyson. He used to be the baddest man on the planet. You all know Mike Tyson. You know what he is. He's an icon in the professional boxing world. And Jake Paul's not even a pro boxer. So when I heard this fight was happening, I was absolutely disgusted. And I think it's so bad for boxing. Right, so the fight's going to be at the Cowboy Stadium in Dallas, Texas. I've been there before. Billy Joe Saunders fought Canelo Alvarez. It's a massive stadium. I think it holds something like 79,500 fans. So it's a huge event, streamed live on Netflix. So that'll be big money as well. So I can understand the money's there. And I hate to think that Mike Tyson needs the money, because the fact that what he's done and the amount of money he's earned, and we know he had a lot of leeches around him in his career, and he probably didn't keep most of his money. But I know that Mike Tyson can earn money now, and he's involved in cannabis. Having said that, he's smoking a lot of cannabis, and he makes no secret about that. He does a lot of podcasts. I think he comes across really well, talks well, but he's smoking a lot of weed. I've seen him with a walking stick because he's got a bad back. I think he's got sciatica. He's getting on for 60 years old. He's like 58 years old, 59 years old. Jake Paul's 27. This is basically a young kid being a bully. What's he getting out of fighting Mike Tyson? What exactly does Jake Paul feel that he's achieving by beating a guy who's nearly 60 years old? It's like me taking on Linford Christie now in a 100-metre sprint. There's nothing to prove. The guy's well past his best, finished, pipe and slippers, long ago. I mean, he was probably peaking in 1992, 93, early 90s, Mike Tyson. It's now 30 years on, and he's not a boxer anymore. He's settled down, he's finished in the game. And has Jake Paul been bad advised, actually? I mean, whoever's telling Jake Paul that it's a good idea to fight Mike Tyson, Jake Paul's fighting an old man. So if he wins, he's beating an old man, and people are going to say, well, what you prove there? If he loses, he's lost to an old man. I mean, and there is a chance, actually, and this is probably why it's still selling. There's still the people who don't understand boxing might get excited about it. It's still Iron Mike Tyson, the big bad man, and he still has got a punch. The punch power is the last thing to leave a professional fighter. Your reflexes go, your fitness goes, your punch resistance goes, and Mike Tyson's punch resistance, I mean, come on. If that's gone, imagine Jake Paul. Imagine Jake Paul knocking out Mike Tyson. To me, it just sounds disgusting. You're beating up an old man. It's wrong in every single way possible. But anyway, Mike Tyson has also maybe been a little bit bad advised. I don't know what Jake Paul's benefiting from it apart from money. Same with Mike Tyson. Is he just getting paid? Does he need the money? If he does, that's a real shame. I can't justify or give any kind of explanation that makes me say, yeah, this fight's going to be okay. I don't think it's an exhibition, so they're not going to be in there with 18-ounce gloves and head guards taking the time with each other. They're trying to get it sanctioned as an official professional boxing match. So I think whoever's going to commission it is going to try and get it licensed and call it a professional fight, which for me is just absolutely ludicrous. So Jake Paul's got a teeny bopper demographic, an audience, a TikTok audience, and I'm not giving them stick, but they're all very young, these people that follow Jake Paul. They're the ones that are stupid enough to follow this shit career that he's involved in, this fake boxing career that he's been wrapped up in for a while. He got exposed by Tommy Fury, and I thought that would be the end of him. Tommy Fury, I don't think is good enough to win a British title. I'm not giving him any stick. He's a novice professional, and Jake Paul lost to him. Who's he fought? He's fought an old man, Anderson Silva, and that looked like a fix, like a shot even missed, and Anderson Silva jumped on the floor. Then he's fought two bums. I don't even know who the guys are, but they looked a right mess. They look like they did not belong in a boxing ring. And Jake Paul's hitting in one shots, and they're jumping on the floor, chucking themselves on the floor. But for those of you, the teeny bopper fans that do follow Jake Paul, this plank, this shovel face, that needs a shovel putting round his face actually, after announcing his Mike Tyson fight. For those of you who don't know, Mike Tyson used to be the most feared man in the boxing ring, the baddest man on the planet. He was knocking people over in the first round. Everybody you can think of from the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, this guy has took them on. And when people got in the ring with Mike Tyson, they feared for their life because he was a ferocious, ultimate fighting machine. He's probably one of my favourite fighters of all time because of the way in which he installed fear into his opponents. And from round one, he used to go for the knockout blow. For every second of every round while he was stood on his feet, swinging away with them big hooks, them body shots, them uppercuts. He was ferocious. So Jake Paul would not have an absolute prayer with him for 10 seconds of any kind of any round with Mike Tyson anywhere near his peak. It's a total mismatch. But now he's waited till he's nearly 60 years old because Mike Tyson has got such a big name. He's basically bullying him, getting him into the ring to earn a few quid and to try and get some kind of bogus status by beating Mike Tyson. It's a shambles, it's an embarrassment, it's disgusting, and in my opinion, it needs to stop. It shouldn't be happening. So looking at the odds, and I think rightly so, Mike Tyson's the underdog. Jake Paul's a massive favourite, but the guy's in his mid-20s and he's fighting someone 30 years older than him. Do I see a world in which Mike Tyson could potentially beat Jake Paul? I mean, obviously, apparently your last thing to go is your punching power, but he's probably got 15, 20-second burst in him. And then when he runs out of steam, because Jake Paul will just keep out of his way early on, he's going to be blowing out of his arse, Mike Tyson, and there's going to be a sitting duck. It's going to be target practice. So I don't think Mike Tyson has got a puncher's chance. Obviously, if he lands flush on Jake Paul's chin, I mean, how fucking good would that be? I would absolutely love it if Mike Tyson got in the ring and connected on Jake Paul's chin and flattened him. That'd mean all that is bullshit and hype and all this talk and all this being greedy, being a greedy bully fighting Mike Tyson would backfire. But I just can't see that happening. I just don't see how a guy who's nearly 60 years old, who's not been anywhere near a gym. Obviously, we're seeing clips of him looking decent on the pads for 2-3 seconds that have been chopped in. But he's not an athlete anymore. He's a retired old man. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. That's just where he is. You've got Jake Paul, who's actually in the gym a lot. He's not a professional boxer, Jake Paul. He never will be because he's fucking crap. He can't fight. Have you seen him fight? He's useless. He's just a bully. But he's going to beat Mike Tyson just because he's in his 20s. Father time waits for no man. Mike Tyson is just too old. So Jake Paul, you are an absolute bitch. I've seen you fight. I've watched you lose against Tommy Fury. What a crap fight that was. I've never seen anything so crap in my life. Why are you still gloving up and lacing up the boots and calling yourself a professional boxer? You're a performing clown. You're a fucking embarrassment and you should be ashamed of yourself. So I've never had no personal beef with Jake Paul. He's the one who called me out. He mentioned my name in some stupid interview he did because he don't like the fact that I don't give him any credit or any praise in the boxing world because he don't deserve it because he can't box. You had the opportunity to fight me because you talked, you used my name in some bullshit and then you chucked Anderson Silva in the mix and say, fight Anderson Silva and prove yourself and I'll take you on. Well, I put you straight in your box, didn't I? I said to him, come on then, let's do it. I threatened to put him into orbit and he went quiet. He went quiet, totally silent, didn't want to know. Because, you know, even though I'm 10 years retired and I'm 20 years older than you, you know you can't risk fighting somebody like me. Because you know, even now, even though I'm not in the gym, I'm not throwing punches, I keep myself in shape, don't worry about that. If we ever meet, don't worry about that either, because there's only one man that walks out of a room if me and you enter it. But you won't fight me, will you? You ain't got the bollocks. You're just a fucking bully. It's pissing me off because Mike Tyson is such an icon. He's such a legend in the boxing world. And you're going to disrespect him. And you're disrespecting yourself, actually. You're an embarrassment. It just shows you what you are. You've got a guy here who's 20 years your senior, who's not in the gym, and you went silent. You filled your nappy as soon as I called you out. And all his excuses, oh, Carl Froch must need the money, he must want a payday, and he laughs it off and brushes it to one side. He's got no intention of coming anywhere near me. But that's the history that me and Jake Paul have got. He's ran his mouth. I've put it on him and said, come on then, let's go. And I'm not trying to make money. I tell you now I'm not trying to make money because I'll fight you for the pure love of it. I'll fight you for fun. And you can mark these words down in a contract. I'll fight you for free because you need to stop doing what you're doing. I'll tell you one thing I will say, I'm a little bit worried where boxing is going because hopefully, actually, with the crossover stuff, Anthony Joshua, taking on Francis Ngannou last week just showed that the MMA fighters they don't belong in the ring with professional boxers. AJ just wiped him out. I mean, it either shows Tyson Fury's limitations or shows that he really wasn't switched on and ready for that fight. I've seen a couple of interviews with him, and it looks like Tyson Fury didn't take him seriously. He wasn't on weight, he wasn't in the gym, he got in there and he had a bad night and still got the victory. But the way that Anthony Joshua just flattened him and wiped him out, hopefully these mixed martial arts crossover fights aren't going to happen. But they are still happening and people are still talking about them. We've got Conor Benn facing off against Manny Pacquiao, who's got a similar age gap to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. It's ridiculous. It's almost like these gimmicky fights and these fights that they think are going to sell are more important than the actual real fights. Professional boxing, at the minute, I'm worried where it's going with the insurgence of Saudi Arabia and the cash injection to make their glorious kingdom look ever so wonderful, because that's what they're doing. That's what the money's for. They're just able to just put these fights on, for me, that don't really mean a great deal. We want to see the best. So hopefully we're going to get Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. Still got my reservations for that. Hopefully we're going to see Anthony Joshua take on the winner of them two and see some big fights coming through. But for now, we're still waiting. But I'm not worried about boxing in the future. I don't know where it's going, where it's headed. And one thing I have been doing lately, I've been watching the UFC, been watching the MMA stuff. And Dana White, he's got his critics, but you've got to say, he's got the format for this UFC just stitched up correctly. You've got the best fighters fighting the best. It's interesting because even if they win or lose, they still fight again a couple of months later. The best fight the best. You get to find out who the best in the division is. It's not 3 or 4 world titles in each weight division. Whoever the best is in that division, you find out who the world champion is because they're fighting each other. And boxing could learn a lot from that. And you've got some characters as well. What about my guy, Sean Strickland? What a fucking guy he is. I love him. I think he was in the ring the other day sparring. A lot of people bitching and moaning. I think Joe Rogan had something to say about him. He sparred somebody from YouTube who was giving him some shit, saying, oh, I want to spar with you. And Strickland went in there and just beat him up, just walloped him. Listen, I'm not saying I agree with it, but if someone wants to jump in for a sparring session with Sean Strickland, you best realise he's going to try and take your head off and decapitate you if he can, because that's the kind of guy he is. I feel like he's cut from the same cloth as me. He says it how it is, he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he does not care who he upsets. So people like Sean Strickland in the UFC are the kind of characters that make me want to get into the sport. So I'm going to start watching the sport. My older brother Lee, he keeps sending me clips and keeps saying, watch this guy, watch that guy. I'm going to now start taking it a little bit more serious because what a sport this is. It's no mystery why this sport is the fastest growing combat sport in the world. And in America, it's absolutely massive, and I can see why. Don't get me wrong, my first love and my passion will always be professional boxing, because that's my game. The Hall of Famer, the Cobra. I'm not going to ever turn my back on professional boxing, but I'm going to start to dip my toe in the UFC world and start to get into that that big community a little bit more, and hopefully give you my opinion on some of them fights. So there's a big event coming up in the UFC called the UFC 300. I think it's April. So let me know if you want me to do a little response to that. Let me know in the comments if you want me to go and dip my toe in the UFC world. If not, I'll listen to you because you're my loyal followers. They're closing in on 100,000 subscribers. Really appreciate it, by the way. It's giving me fuel. It's keeping me going. It's keeping me excited in this game. But if you want me to dip my toe in the UFC world, I'm happy to do so. I think I'll be passionate about it because I really do want to start watching more of these fights. And with this big event coming up, the UFC 300, that's a great starting point. But let me know what you think. So that's it for another episode of Froch on Fighting. Hopefully I've straightened out the biggest con man in boxing, Jake Paul. And yeah, let me know what you think in your comments below. Let me know if you think I'm correct or incorrect in my opinions on Jake Paul. But it's getting a little bit dark in here. You can't even see the cobra in the background anymore. The snake and the cobra is vanishing. It's getting late, so I'm gonna wrap it up. This has been another episode of Froch on Fighting. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time.